Hi, welcome to a Curve tutorial video. My name is Natan Cohen. I'm the head of customer success here at Curve. In this video, we're going to be learning how to build grouped summary reports with totals and subtotals, also exploring the different types of table calculations that Curve offers. And we'll be exploring how to create drill down style reports as well as pivot tables. So let's get started. So we're going to start with a grouped summary report, and the way we're going to create that is using a table chart. So I'm going to choose a data set called Employee Sales Performance, which has several good columns I can use to create a grouped hierarchy, as well as some columns to aggregate. So I'm going to start by adding a table chart, and the way you create a grouped chart is by adding at least one column to the group shelf. If you only add columns to the column shelf, then what you're creating is a raw data table with nothing that's aggregated. So first we need at least one column at the group level. I'm going to choose job title, and then I'm going to choose to aggregate line totals. And this will work because I know that my composite data set goes all the way down to the order detail level. So if I roll it up at the line total, I should get total sales by job title. So you can see these are grouped by sales managers and sales reps. And I can add as many other dimensions as I want. Like, for example, I could add order date. And as long as that's a date time field in my data set, I can group that by any date time component. I'll just keep it simple and group by order date. So here I have a group summary report. And what I'd like to do is start creating some subtotals and grand totals here. And the way I can do that is by expanding general and going to totals and clicking add total. And what it will do is it will create a new entry, a new customizable total. It will choose the only numeric aggregated field that I have, so that's line total. And by default, it will produce a sum and a count. I don't want the count, so I'm going to disable that. And here you can see that I have my grand total, 80.5 million. So let's go ahead and make this currency format. You can save users this step by designating the column as a currency format in the dataset design UI. Now, what I also want to do is create subtotals. So I don't need to add another total to do that. What I can do is simply enable the job title level. Right? So basically I have job title, order date, and line total. And because I have those levels, I now am able to produce subtotals for all years for each job total. So here are my subtotals. And if we just look them over real quick, clearly my sales reps have the bulk of it. Looks like all the subtotals do add up to 80 million. Now, I can keep building onto this, and I can insert another dimension. We'll insert gender between job title and order date. And now I have yet another dimension here. So first thing that's important to note is that my line title aggregates are now the total per order year, per gender, per job title. Now, the only job title that has both genders would be the sales reps. And now you can see that I'm missing my subtotals at the gender level. I can just easily enable that by checking it off. I don't need to add another total. So now I have a group summary report with a grand total as well as subtotals at each level of the hierarchy. Let's talk about some of the special calculations that you can do in table charts as well as other types of charts. If I wanted to get, for example, a running total, a running average, almost like a running version of any of the aggregates that we offer here. We have that available under table calculations. The one that I want to highlight is difference from previous, either displayed as a value or a percentage. So for example, let's say I wanted to know the difference between 86K and 550K and also display that as a column. I could do that as a table calculation. Now, if I change to a table calculation, I will get rid of my sum in favor of a percent diff, and I want to show both. So you can add the same exact column multiple times for this very reason. And then this one I can change to difference from previous displayed as a percentage. All right. And that's what you can see here. The first row in each group in such a column is always going to be null because there isn't a record or a value prior to the first, which makes sense. So that's why you see a value starting in the second row. That's an example of difference from previous. That's a special table calculation. One last thing to show you with group summary reports are sparkline charts, which is a great way to summarize aggregate data over time in a more concise way. So to do that, I'm going to get rid of some of the things we've built before, like my difference from previous. I'm also going to get rid of my totals, just to make this a bit more visible. Okay, and I'm also going to get rid of order date because I'm going to display that a different way using the sparkline chart. So I'm going to come down here to trend charts. We do call them trend charts, but they're also sparklines. You can choose from sparkline bar or sparkline lines, and you can choose any aggregate field that you've added. And then you can choose the column to trend by. Okay, and this is why I removed the order date column, because I'm going to trend by that column. And if it is a date time column, you can then further choose the date grouping value. Okay, and then I can limit it if I want, to all dates, or this year, last year. I want to do it for, all dates. So now that I've added the sparkline, I get a nice concise view over multiple years of the start total, the end total, the min, and the max. If you want, you can add back the actual numbers, the sums for the line total by clicking show value. I think that makes the column a little packed, so I'm going to remove that. But you can do simple things like change the style of the line, if assuming it's a line. You can shade the region below it if you prefer that style. That's an example of how you do trend charts using sparklines. Now we're going to take a look at how you can create a drill down style report. So let's take a look at how to build a drill down report, but before we do that, let's take a look at an important setting here called max groups. It defaults to 50. And this setting basically ensures that the data engine doesn't compute too many data points, which would increase the rendering time. This is the type of report where the default value of 50 may be too low, and this is for max groups, right? So if you have, if you know you have less than 50, you'll see all the data. If you're noticing that data is missing or truncated, this is where you could come in and increase those groups. Now, it won't make a difference on my chart, but it's something to keep in mind. Now let's go over to the expandable table chart. We need a different type of chart for drill down functionality. And notice what it's going to do. It actually removed my aggregate from my line total column, and then my groupings became sections. And the sections are hierarchical. So if I drill down on European Sales Manager, I can then drill down again on gender. And now I'm looking at the raw data. So these values are not aggregated, right? These are detail records. I'm going to go ahead and just remove gender just to make it a little bit clearer. right? And I might expect not to see too many detail records for my managers, but under my sales reps, I know I have quite a number of detail records. Now here again, you might run into an issue where you don't see all the detail records. And the default is 10. I've gone ahead and increased it to 100. But you can increase that further and continue to show detail records. Just keep in mind, this type of chart is not designed for thousands upon thousands of detail records, certainly not millions of records. It's really just kind of a preview of the detail records or data sets that don't have a lot of detail records. So keep that in mind. Finally, let's talk about the pivot table. Pivot tables have a different name in Curve. We call them cross tabulations, but they work the same way. Now, instead of just columns and values, I also have rows. But this is where I can start to generate columns based on any other dimension. Right? If I just make this year, then I should get a column for each year. And pivot tables have a drill down as well as a drill across feature, right? Wherever it makes sense to do so. So because my column field is a date, I can then drill across based on any subdivision of time, all the way down to hour, minute, second, if you have that. And if you want to create a drill down here on the pivot table, well, then you just need more than one dimension on the rows, or the row dimension can be a date. Then you'll be able to drill down. I'm going to go ahead and add gender back. Now you can see I have the ability to drill down, and you can see male, female here, and all of the aggregates are broken down by that grouping. Same rules for pivot tables. Max rows and max columns. If you need more than 500 records, you can increase it. The max default for columns is 500. Just remember, the more columns you have, you're going to have a horizontal scroll bar, so that might become unreadable. So in this video, you saw how to build a tabular group summary report. We also learned how to do totals and subtotals, special table calculations like running totals, difference from previous calculations, trend charts that build out spark lines. And we also explored how to create drill down style tabular reports, as well as pivot tables, which are called cross tabulation charts. So that's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching.